reconnecting ourselves with each other, with SOAR as an organisation, and also with our surroundings, because we've all kind of like done that, haven't we? Since we've been able to, we've all run back into our busy lives, and we're all over the place again. And we're just kind of grounding ourselves a little bit here as well. One of the things that certainly I'm reflecting a lot, and I don't know if you are too, is the fact that we all shared that context when everybody was like immediately presented with their own potential death around COVID. We were very compliant, weren't we? And we all shifted our behaviour massively and incredibly quickly right across the world. But now we're all sharing this same, you know, crisis, emergency, urgency, all that kind of thing as well around climate. And I find it very curious and very interesting. I'm looking at a lot of the research as to why we're unable to make that collective behaviour change in the same way. But we've all got that shared context, and it's really interesting as to how much responsibility we feel, how much we feel that our role as an artist is bound in narrating or highlighting some of those issues. You know, it's the role of the artist, isn't it, since the beginning of time, is to reflect on, reinterpret and interrogate whatever the current context is. So we are sort of reacquainting ourselves with stuff in the past, but also the now of what our context is. Thank you, Kelly. Can you click us on? Okay, so if you didn't know already, Somerset Reacquainted was a project which came out of the COVID-19 pandemic when everyone was locked down. It was a creativity and isolation project, and it ran and it's still running, which has been really interesting. So it started off as a way of actually keeping the artist community together when we couldn't physically meet. That's why this is Reconnect now. Yeah, let's go, Kelly. Thank you. So in Somerset Reacquainted, artists refreshed their engagement with their locality. That was a really big part of it, actually. And amazing work came out of it. And it was about discovering and rediscovering the excitement and purpose in their work as well. And we all, for that period of time, stepped off our usual production cycles. Okay, so most of us as artists are in that cycle, aren't we, of research, writing funding applications, creating, producing new work, exhibiting, running events, all that kind of thing. Anyway, we're all in that cycle. And we stepped off, and actually it was a bit like having that freedom to play again. And so we maybe just reconnected with our own practice in a different way. And for lots of us, I think that's been quite a big shift, which has been sustained. But that's part of what we're going to look at this afternoon. Kelly. Thank you. So what have we done since? This is just a quick thing. Initially, the work that came out of that was actually exhibited at the Rural Life Museum. And it was very much work in progress, just a little capsule, a little time capsule of this is what artists in Somerset have been doing during the lockdown period in their little individual places. That was accompanied by a podcast series as well, which was, again, really capitalising on what you can do to connect people during periods of isolation. And some of that, we know, some of that learning and some of those things that were brought in have been, well, they've become really useful tools for all of us, really. So we did a few podcasts looking at some of the themes that emerged during Somerset Reacquainted. So reconnection with nature, reconnection with community, reconnection with ideas of materiality and making, some of that solace and well-being that comes through your own artistic practice for yourself, but also that you give to other people through your work as well. Those became themes for a series of podcasts as well. We also developed family-friendly activities online as well for families to do, resources there to keep people really creative and energized during those periods of isolation. Collaborative book project was launched by Nina. Thank you very much, Nina, which was really beautiful, which was inviting all the artists across the county to contribute to this work that was then turned into this beautiful hand-bound, hand-stitched book. Which then accompanied the touring exhibition. So the next year we had a touring exhibition across Somerset. I think there was 5 or 6 in different venues, which also picked up on some of those themes. And all the way through, running through most of that for the first couple of years were monthly or weekly sharing meetings as well. So it was really about holding the community together, the community of artists together, and really finding the audience and finding ways of showcasing work in new and innovative ways that we were forced into or challenged into through the COVID pandemic. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, so, I don't know why it hasn't given us a picture. But what has left, the legacy that's been left from that, is this enduring collaboration and community, which has been really interesting. For the first year or two, I know there was an awful lot of conversations about what is Somerset Reacquainted and what is Somerset Artworks, and how do the two things talk to each other. If you're an artist in Somerset Reacquainted, is that the same thing as being an artist in Somerset Artworks? And so it's been a really interesting period of helping to define the fact that Somerset Reacquainted is just a term, it's just an umbrella, and lots of artist development opportunities, activities, and things like that, which are either led by the artists themselves. It's not all about sort of feeding the artists. Some of them are artists saying, hey, I've got a great idea, and I've met these other artists through Somerset Reacquainted, and we're going to come together, we're going to collaborate, and we're going to test ourselves in new and fresh ways. And some of that has really endured. So there were quite a few collaborations that were born out of Somerset Reacquainted. And we're going to look to doing something really collaborative this afternoon if you're up for it. If you're not, that's fine. Kelly, thank you. So in 2022, because there was all this activity, and loads of people got involved, what I haven't said yet is that in the life of Somerset Reacquainted, that first exhibition of all the artists who got together virtually during the lockdowns, I think we had 63 or 65 artists involved at that point. Then it grew even bigger. So now over the life of Somerset Reacquainted, there have been well over 100, a really big portion of Somerset Artworks membership that have actually been involved with the project in some form. And as time went on, we realised the potential and the buy-in, if you like, by people. Zoe and I agreed that we needed a steering group, that it didn't need to just continue to be run by myself and Zoe. I mean, that was where it started from. It started from some of my own response to the lockdown. And sort of modelling some of that. So we formed a steering group, which included representatives from SOAR to develop the project beyond the COVID-19 context, which has been really, really interesting. So there are now quite a few, it's about eight people in the steering group now. And Kelly and I are two of them. So that's why you're kind of hearing from us today. Because what we decided a while ago was that each of the artist members of the steering group would be offered the opportunity to do an intervention, start an initiative that is an artist development provocation for SOAR members. And Kelly and I were talking quite a lot about stuff that could be possible, and we kind of came up with this event. So that's sort of why we're here, because we're the steering group for Somerset Reacquainted, which is to take the artist development forward. Thank you, Kelly. So from now onward, just looking at sort of that's a bit of the narrative of how we've got to where we are today. So Somerset Reacquainted has become a really vital part of SOAR's artist development programme. It's serving as a bit of a think tank. So the artists and SOAR as an organisation, it's a great interface, and it almost takes SOAR back, I guess, to where it very first began as a group of artists, and really puts the artist voice right in the centre of SOAR as an organisation's development. So really bouncing lots of ideas between the membership and the team. Also to develop artist-led activities to focus on Somerset as a place for artistic ambition, expression and production, and also critical engagement and research opportunities for Somerset artists. And this is what we're continuing striving to do, is actually looking at how we can put together action learning sets, action research groups as well, to really help to push that narrative. And it's all about raising quality, it's all about finding audiences, and it's all about really getting Somerset artists out there. Thank you, Kelly. So the aims of the steering group that we have now is to develop an artist-led culture and collaboration. So as I say, we're putting artists back right in the middle, driving the development of SOAR. Raising the quality of work to be seen and produced, create opportunities for artists to develop work at regional and national levels and align with SOAR's strategic focus. So if we go on to the next one, Kelly. Thank you for that. Okay, so right now, and I think that it was actually in Jan's chair's report that she was talking about, obviously SOAR Sustainable, and obviously working with the RSPB, and the ecological environmental organisations right at the heart, again on the board as well. So big strategic priority for SOAR is environmental responsibility. developing best practice in the use of materials, the approach, the message of the work, and the issues that artists wish to contribute to the conversation. Somerset Artworks has declared a climate emergency via the Culture Declares movement. Now, what's really interesting here, and as I say, we're putting the artists right back in the middle again, because I don't know if you share my feeling, but my feeling is that if we're members, if it's a membership organisation, charity, it doesn't really work for the membership organisation to say we declare a climate and ecological emergency, and these are our ambitions and things. If that's not discussed with the artists who are the members, and the members need to embody that. So I think that's quite an interesting challenge as to how does that work? How does that work for you? And what does sustainability look like to you? And we'll talk about that, I think, later on in the afternoon. But sustainability is an interesting word, and it's now used such a lot, isn't it, around climate and environmental sustainability. But obviously, it's got much broader definition than that. And so for us as artists, again, we're working in a cost of living crisis as well. A lot of us finding it really difficult to sustain our practice. There's less and less funding. There's less and less money sloshing around generally in the arts as well. It's more and more difficult to actually sustain our practice financially. We have other barriers as well. So we can look at what it means truly for us as Somerset artists to make our practice sustainable in that really broad sense as well. Thank you, Kelly.